the chair. It's Armistice Day today, so I'm just going to go and lay a wreath at the Bridge of Remembrance, and Andrew will take over, and he will complete the notice of motion first, and then the hearings panel report to the council on the proposed replacement freedom camping bylaw, and they will all be done by the time I get back. No pressure.
Thank you. So let's now move straight to item 15, the notice of motion. Now, Phil, you're the mover of this notice of motion, so if you'd like to introduce the item, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. I've been passionate about this for a long time. This is my view is this is the way the world is going, and at the moment, people that think a bottle in Christchurch is recycled into a bottle, this is not correct. Eco Central, we had them in yesterday talking about their new addition to the materials recovery machine of $16.8 million, which is very good from the government. Thank you very much. They would prefer to have glass was removed from their waste stream because it saves on contamination of their finished product, and therefore they get a higher price for their cardboard and plastic because it's better quality, and it also saves on wear and tear of their machine. I've also checked with Visi in the North Island, and they do have capacity for our glass in their system. I feel the best way to recycle glass in Christchurch is to do what the Tasman District Council does, and is to do colour-separated glass collected at the curbside. This stops any contamination of the product because it is colour-separated. We have a higher value for it, and Visi can remanufacture it better because it's all in either green, brown or white colour. If we did exactly what TDC do, we would require a bin similar to the old recycling bins that we used to use years ago before we had the big bins. How do we pay for this, you may ask? We pay Eco Central to do recycling by the tonne. And if we remove those tonnes of glass from there that goes through their plant at the moment, the money saved is more than 2/3 of the proposed cost of the new system. Please don't lose sight that if every time a glass bottle goes round and round and reused, it means we don't have to import or mine silica sand for production of new glass. Also, apart from the Invercargill City Council, Christchurch is the only place in the South Island where it is not collecting glass in some way or another for reuse as bottles. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So just noting, external correspondence regarding the subject matter of this notice of motion has been provided to the Mayor and Councillors. And obviously we've got the staff memo which forms part of this agenda, which has got some staff advice. Now, do we have a staff member who is able to answer any questions on this? Jane, would you be the right person? No?
Can I just remind you, Mr Mayor, Deputy Mayor, that this is only about the review being completed in time for the annual plan. It's not actually about the project itself.
Yeah, so I mean, my two questions, and they'll be for someone to answer. The notice of motion is noting that staff are currently undertaking a service delivery review. Well, that's a fact, it's happening, and requests the review be completed in time to enable separate collection of recycling glass to be considered by the Council as part of the 2022-23 annual plan. The review is taking place. It will report in time for any and all of its discussions and recommendations to be taken into account as part of the annual plan, as a matter of course, won't it?
Yes.
Yeah, and all of that was happening anyway,
yes,
notwithstanding this notice of motion.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Are there any further questions?
The main thing, Andrew, I just wanted to bring this to the fore because I didn't want it to slip past and we miss this annual plan that runs into next year, because then it just quietly falls away.
But just to clarify, this work was happening anyway, and it was always going to report to the annual plan anyway.
Yep.
Thank you. Are there any further questions? Yanni.
So the next steps from here, in terms of, like, I understand that there's already been reports looked at, and I just want to make sure that we've got a process to, as has been said, to get this looked at in a timely manner with all the relevant information. So are we able to get a sense of what would happen from here?
Jane has just clearly confirmed that the report will come to fit with the annual plan timescale. It can't be any clearer than that.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah,
and the content of that report will be the subject of debate on that report at that time.
Correct.
It's just that it's going to be quite detailed and there's going to be a lot of thought given to the financial impact.
Yep.
So, just getting it on the day of the draft annual plan won't really be sufficient.
Sorry,
so
if I can just clarify that, we will bring the report ahead of your annual plan decision.
So when is the service delivery
It will be
review due for
separate.
completion?
It will be brought separate to the annual plan decision, and then that will inform your annual plan decision.
Right, sorry, but the question is, when is the service delivery review due for completion?
I don't have that information in the top of my head. I'll come back to you on that. We started it some time ago.
Yeah, I mean, I was just struck by the deputations today, is that while we can look at glass and as a thing that we'd like to do, we can't lose sight of the overall waste collection system. So I think whatever work is being done, it needs to align.
Yeah, I heard a high level of confidence that the service delivery review will be completed and will report in good time for us to consider what comes out of it in time for any changes or considerations for the annual plan.
And just a final question from me is, like, if people, obviously there's a growing awareness of the importance of glass in terms of recycling and going into a more productive reuse. Is there anything that people can do now, short of us changing our bin collection system, which is, will take some time, and but in the short term, is there any ability to do anything around if people want to make that choice proactively as an individual to take separated glass somewhere within our facilities?
It's not really part of this.
Look, I'm probably not the right person to advise you on that. We'll come back with some advice on
I
what
should have
we
asked it
can.
at the committee meeting yesterday, Yanni.
Okay,
So we have Ross just arriving. I think that's Ross under there, is it? Yes, it is. Perfect.
So the specific question, Yanni, was what?
Sorry, point of order. This is not related to the notice of motion. We're wasting time on this. It's a simple notice of motion that's just requesting some information be brought forward. We're not actually going to dig into the whole service delivery review or the method of dealing with our waste or details like that.
The timing of the review is and was valid, because having a confidence that it's going to report in time for annual plan consideration, all well and good. The content of the report is obviously something that we'll deal with at that time.
The thing is, the timing is important because we're actually going out for a consultation on our bins, as you'll be aware. So we're actually going out and talking to our community about some aspects of our collection.
Okay, so rather than having a debate across the table, what's the specific question that you're asking?
I just think it would be good to get some advice in the short term around what people can do around glass recycling. If they individually choose to, stockpile.
Oh, that's way outside of what we're considering here. Yeah. That's totally separate than that.
Cool. And just in regards to the survey or the consultation that we're doing, is there any reference to a separated glass collection that we could consider to inform our view?
Sorry, I missed the question after all that.
So my understanding is we're going out for a consultation and engagement on a number of aspects of our waste collection system. If we pass this today, is there anything that we could consider putting in that engagement that references separated glass recycling as an option? I note that there's been an informal poll on, I think, the Stuff website, which has shown something like 75 to 80% of people in favour. But obviously, we've got our own engagement and consultations we'd need to go through.
So part of the part of what we're looking at is the new service review is how we deliver our services. We are taking into consideration the separation of glass at separate collection of glass. So in terms of the first part of the consultation, I'm not sure if that's actually in there at the moment, but that's something we can do. We're doing a second part consultation early next year.
Ross, can you please confirm when the service review will be completed so that members are assured that it's in the timescale for the annual plan?
Sure. So that's June 22.
Yeah, we know that.
Oh, we'll be reporting back before then.
So the specific question, obviously the annual plan's June 22.
We won't be reporting.
The assurance we're looking for is that the reporting from the service delivery review will be available and the review will be complete in good time for us to consider any changes that we want to make in the annual plan. So the specific question is, when will the service delivery review be complete?
So that'll be available March 22.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, so I've got Sarah, Anne, Mike and Pauline. Sarah.
Remember what it was. Does the service review cover not only how and the financial costs? Is it covering those sustainability and climate and emissions kind of factors in there as well towards our goals on emissions and those kind of things?
Yeah,
So normally a standard review is more about cost and efficiency, but does it look at how we reach our goals as a city as well?
Yeah, absolutely. That forms part of that, as does our waste management minimisation plan. Have those?
Yeah. They didn't used to. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you. Anne.
Given that we've just heard that the review will be finished, before we make the decision about the annual plan, I'm just wondering at the value of the notice of motion, given that this seems to be the notice of motion seems to be just saying what we're going to be doing anyway. So I'm wondering if there is value in pursuing a notice of motion that's saying the same thing, whether there is actually value in just putting a bit more pressure on and emphasising that we want this to happen. So I guess that's...
I think we've just heard that it's happening anyway.
Yeah. So is there any negative impact on doing a notice of motion here? Would it put more extra pressure on staff, or I'm just wondering the value of it?
Is there a question there?
What is the value of the notice of motion, given that, from what we've just heard?
I think that's probably a political question rather than a question of staff. Does the notice of motion change anything?
No, it doesn't.
No.
The work's happening anyway.
Yeah. Thank you. Who else did I have? Mike and then Pauline. Mike.
Thank you. Just a quick question. And the container return scheme, I guess the timing of that compared to the timing of this, I'm a bit concerned if we're making decisions on a draft annual plan around separating this if the container return scheme hasn't actually been finalised. I'm just wondering how that's all going to be tied in together.
Absolutely. I've just had a response from the ministry last night saying that will be going to Cabinet for a decision around February, but that decision may be around consultation. So that'll be, we're about to circulate that round. So there may be consultation before the final decision is made whether to proceed with that.
So that'll be...
Councillors, that does raise an issue with what we might be able to come back with. So while we will be reporting back, there may be some unknowns around that scheme, and so the decision making might be quite challenging for you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Pauline.
I was just going to debate.
All right, so we'll come to debate in just a moment. Are there any further questions before we do? All right, fine. So, debate, Pauline.
Yeah, I was just going to remind councillors that we did quite a bit of work.
Oh, sorry, before we start, we need to... Well, so we've got Phil moving
It's already moved.
and Aaron seconding, so it's already... All right, so I'm advised, Phil, that you should open the debate as the mover, and then I'll come to you to close the debate at the end, so...
He's already done this.
No, I'm happy with what I've said so far.
I'll come to you at the end in case you want to say anything further. Pauline.
Yeah, thanks. Look, yeah, I'm happy with this. It's our committee, my committee, well now me and Phil's did a lot of work on this last year, and we do have a report that's come back to council. And one of the recommendations was to consider glass out options as part of the service delivery review of solid waste and resource recovery, which is happening. And this is simply asking or ensuring that information around the glass out component of that comes back to us in time for us to make any considerations in the annual plan. So I'm happy with this. It's perfectly harmless, as Councillor Galloway reminded us, it's happening anyway, but I don't see any harm in highlighting it and keeping the foot on the pedal. So I'll support this today.
Any further debate before I... Anne?
Sorry, just listening to the wise advice from my esteemed colleague Pauline Cotter. I'm happy to support. I'm happy to support this as well. If it means that we get the desired outcome, more, we're more confident in getting that desired outcome that we deal with this issue. I'm happy to support.
Yeah, I'm also happy to support this. There's absolutely nothing to disagree with here. I mean, in many ways, the notice of motion has simply served to confirm what we already knew, which is that the service delivery review is underway, that it will report in time for the annual plan and will inform the annual plan. To come back to the spirit of the question that Anne was asking, does the notice of motion make any difference? No, it doesn't. But to come back to Phil's point, does it draw attention to work that's already going on and reporting that would have happened? Yes, it does. So from that point of view, there's nothing here to disagree with. Mike.
Thanks. I support the notice of motion as well. The work may be going, but it's always good to bring public attention to actually that work, because it's quite important what we do in the waste and recycling area. The one concern I do have, and regardless of this notice of motion, because it was already happening, was the whole container return scheme and the timing of the decisions we got to make leading up to the annual plan. The potential that this could actually, the container return scheme could come into effect after that. So it's how we manage that and navigate through that.
Thank you. Yanni.
I'm very supportive of this notice of motion. This has been a request that some of us have been making for a number of years now, and we just do need to really progress it. I think, this city used to be kind of a very progressive world leader in recycling and sustainability. And unfortunately, with our waste strategy, and we've had a lot of reasons in terms of things like the earthquakes and the impact that that's had on our waste recovery. But the reality is that we haven't met our targets to reduce the amount of waste going to landfill. And one of the really positive things that we can do, I think the evidence is pretty overwhelming, that separating a glass collection and not commingling will be a much better way forward. So I'm really supportive of getting this work done in time to inform our decisions for our annual plan. I do think that what we've heard today from the deputations is that the container deposit return scheme, or whatever it's called, is really not going to be the solution to dealing with glass, and there could be quite a risk that it does undermine collection systems. But fundamentally, I think the evidence is overwhelming that having a separated glass recycling system and is a much better solution than what we're currently doing. We do have the issue with a number of contracts, so we do need to look at it as part of our service delivery review. But in my view, now is the opportunity to get behaviour change. Obviously it's something I pushed for when we went into lockdown with the first COVID lockdown, and we weren't able to get that across the line. But I think now is today to signal that we are taking this issue seriously. And we do want to get a behaviour change to get a better environmental outcome for our city. Thanks.
Thank you. Tim.
Yeah, I won't take 3 minutes. The fact of the matter is the question asked with regards to does this make a difference? It actually does make a difference, because it's emphasising to staff how important this is to council and those partners that we have when we talk about climate change, emergencies, etc. This is at the base of it, but it's actually really, really important. So it's just a reminder, but also to support staff into pushing this forward. Thank you.
Anything further, Sarah?
Thanks so much. Like others, I'm both supportive of the motion and, also aware that it doesn't achieve very much. Supportive of the work happening, I guess. I share Councillor Davidson's concern about the timing of the decision-making with the container return scheme, and we'll have to see how that goes. That will play into our decision-making, and we'll get some really clear advice on that. What this does do is highlight a key sustainability focus for the city and shows that Councillor Major wants to start conversations about sustainability, and I'm looking forward to that spreading into other areas that we make decisions on, such as transport and environmental issues. Got to start somewhere, and I'm really looking forward to having more conversations about sustainability on a range of different topics with Councillor Major and others as we go forward. Thanks.
So I'll now come. Oh, Aaron. Okay, Aaron.
Yeah, I was, after many conversations with Phil, was more than happy to support Phil on this notice of motion. It's almost sad that you can't have a three-way with a notice of motion, because I'm sure Yanni would have liked to have been in there.
Sounds like a John Key moment.
As well, because it is conversations I've had with Yanni many times over the years. It's incredibly disappointing to be part of a council for years that doesn't recycle glass. To dump glass under roads is not in any way, shape or form recycling. Most people, when they're putting glass in their recycle bin, think that it's going off to become glass again, or even be reused as a bottle or a vessel, and it's not. And that's appalling in a modern world. So this is the only way forward. It does send a really, really clear signal to the public that we are going to do something about it as a council. There's no evidence yet that the container return scheme will work. No doubt that's what they're going through now to try and work out, if it is implemented, that it will stack up, not just become a money go round to move essentially a whole lot of items and potentially increase the carbon footprint of moving those items and not reduce pollution and waste in any way, shape or form. So it'll be good to see what comes back from that, because some territories around the world are getting rid of container return schemes because they don't work, they don't have the outcome that they intended to. Recycling glass is important. Glass materials are imported from the other side of the world and brought here when we are dumping them under roads, so we can be a lot more sustainable. And there is such a thing as true sustainability, not just flagging, and this is true sustainability if we recycle the glass and go ahead that way. So I hope that the whole council was unanimous in this, because there's two polls. The press did one, 73% of the public, and they were being asked if they wanted an extra bin. And if you looked at the comments, when I saw it last, there's 51 comments, only a couple were supportive, all of the rest were angry they had to have another bin. Yet in the survey, 73% said yes, they wanted to do this and recycle glass, and in the neighbourly survey it was 78%. So there's a pretty clear signal there from the public. They actually want to get on and recycle glass. So let's do it. Let's send the signal today unanimously and be a united council in creating a sustainable city.
Jimmy.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I also support this one, because today we listened to the submission, and also we're all aware that actually council we adopt and approve the 2020 the Christchurch the waste the minimization and the management plan. Actually, is the separate those the glass, the recycling actually reduce the carbon emission, and also is totally compliant, consistent with our the vision. That's a circular economy. But here I agree with the Mike, because particularly in here we are all aware CRS container return scheme, when will be implemented, based on the staff that mentioned earlier. Possibly in capital will make decision in the February, but when will be the take effect, we don't know. But at least this one will be one of the action, and the staff will bring to the draft the annual plan. So that's why I totally support this principle. Thank you.
Thank you. So Phil, I'll come back to you if you want to close the debate.
Thank you very much, guys. Just with the container return scheme, if we do this properly, it won't be needed, because with the container return scheme, there will be still lazy buggers like me who will throw their bottles in the recycling bin. If it doesn't go in a proper glass bin, I will still do that. I won't take them down the road and put them where they belong for container return scheme. And is it, say, Coke bottles, beer bottles, whatever, but where do you stop? Will jam jars and wine bottles and stuff like that become part of it? I don't know. So I think if we do this properly, like Tasman do it very, very well, and Timaru are coming on board to do separate glass collection, if we do it properly, CRS won't be needed. So thanks very much.
So I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against? That's carried. Thank you very much. So that got us through the notice of motion, but it hasn't got us through Freedom Campaign. but we will break for morning tea now, come back to freedom camping later in the agenda. So I'll now adjourn the meeting until 11:30. We've got people here with deputations at 11:30, so can I please request that we're back here convened ready to hear those deputations. Thank you.